Let's begin.
Good morning.
Learning a block Gemara. We're Masechet Tainas Daf Hey and Aleph by the Mishnah. We're talking about rain, and we discussed about the two parts of the rain. One is to remember the rain, which is a Masha Baruch Amar Geshem. The other one is to ask for the rain, which is in the Bracha Barech Aleinu will be said the same Talu Matul Bracha. You will do in rain in a blessed way. Says the Mishnah, Ad Mosai Shoylinas Akshamin. We already had this Mishnah quoted in Gemara yesterday. Till when do you ask for rain? Rabbi Huda says, Ad Sheyavar HaPesach, until Pesach is over. And we explained that this Rabbi Huda is another Tana has a different understanding of Rabbi Yehuda versus what we learned. The previous Rabbi Yehuda said that Shachri, so the first day Pesach is the end. Rabbi Yisrael tried to reinterpret the Mishnah, but Abaya basically they repudiated that. Rameya says Achi Yetze Nisan. Rameya says until the month of Nisan, the time month is over. Shenema, because the pasuk says Vayedi Lechem Geshem, rain should come down. Moide and Malkush in Bardisha. Bardisha means the first month. Nisan doesn't give us a timeline, so it must be the entire first month. This is in Yoel, and we'll talk about what actually happened then. You're telling me Yoed in Nisan, Yoed b'Mar Cheshvan. It says in the pasuk that Moide and Malkush should come down in the month of Nisan, but we know we'll see in tomorrow's Gemara that there's Yoed and there's Malkush. There's two types of rain. One is called Yoed, one is called Malkush. And Yoed, according to Meir, is the month of Cheshvan, or according to the Chachamim, is the month of Kislev. And Malkush, the later rains, that's in the month of Nisan. And yet this pasuk seems to say everything's in the month of Nisan. How can that be? Because now we learn Yoed b'Mar Cheshvan, Malkush is b'Nisan. Yoed is a Cheshvan, and Malkush is Nisan. Amalei Hachem b'Yechad said, "B'Mei Yoel ben Psura." This guy in Mikra said this pasuk happened at times of Yoel, the Navi Yoel, and there was a blessing then after a long, severe 7-year drought that all the rains all happened at the same time. It says in the pasuk, yes, it Hagazim, whatever these different kinds of locusts. So it says in the pasuk that whatever the Gezim left behind is Ochla Arba. So the different kind of locusts, with one locust left behind, the next locust ate up, and then with that locust left behind, the next locust ate up, and so on and so forth. And Oysa showed that year, the entire winter season went by, and it still hasn't rained. And obviously people didn't plant anything either. Suddenly it started to rain. The normal rains that come in the month of Chesh, beginning of winter, came in the beginning of spring, in the month of Nisan. So the Navi said to go out there with zero and plant. Go take your food, whatever seeds you have, and plant them in the ground now, beginning of the month of Nisan, which is, counterintuitive. They said to him, look, we have two alternatives. We have a little bit of food left. Said, if you have 1 cup of wheat or 2 cups of barley, 2 cups of barley equals 1 cup of wheat. What do you think we should do? Should we eat it now and survive? Or should we plant it, and by the time it grows, the yamas will die because we have no food to eat? Go out there and plant it and rely on the Eibishter that it'll take care of you. And they listened. They went and planted, which required a lot of faith, because normally when you plant something, it takes a good few months for it to grow. And they had no other food left remaining. So what happened was, a miracle happened when his Galilehem was revealed to them, and suddenly there were some hidden treasures, hidden treasures in the walls with the ants put away. And the holes where the ants brought some food, it became revealed. They went, they planted Sheni, Shlishi, they planted the second day of Nisan, the third day of Nisan, the fourth day. For 3 days they planted. And then the Yordu Lehem Revi'ah Shni. We'll see later that 3 rains. There's the first Revi'ah, the second, and the third. So the first Revi'ah started raining, he told them to plant. And then there was a second rain, which started the seeds growing. Bechamisha Benisan, on the 5th day of Nisan. And miraculously, it grew so quickly that he krivu oime b'shisha asam Nisan. On the 16th day of Nisan, that means the 15th day at night, they were able to harvest it and take some new barley and bring a carbon oime from that year's crop. Nimtzaz comes out. Tvua hegidela b'shisha chadashim. Tvua, that normally takes 6 months to grow. Gedela b'chadashim grew in 11 days. because from the day number 5 started to rain, and day number 16 they use it as the omer. Nimtza omer hakodem betfush l'doshin kodem betfush l'achar asiyim. So the omer then that they brought was 11-day omer. Regarding that generation, we have the description that we sing. Hazoirim bedima, those who plant with tears. When they planted, they were very concerned. They thought they're putting away the last bits of food, and they might not even have what to survive another week or two. And suddenly, when they were harvesting, they were great joy because suddenly, 11 days later, they already had plenty to eat. Going, they continued. Now that we mentioned this chapter in Tehillim, so we're going to explain a bit further. It says, went going, they went, ubacha, they cried. Now we already said, what's the repetition? So he says, and they were carrying the bundles of the seeds. What does that mean? Now we're no longer talking about people because we already described the people as in Medina. Now we're talking about the animals. A cow, was plowing. When he was plowing, he's going and crying but miraculously on the way back, on his way back, already there were shoots coming from the ground, and the animals had what to eat. That was again another miracle that happened. So that means that they were crying as they were going. And that came back, they were already in joy. What's noise elamai? So they were carrying, what do you mean noise elamai? So they were carrying with their bundles. We learned that Kana Zeres Shiboilas are time. Kana, the actual stalk itself, was the size of a Zeres, but the Shiboilas, the part where the seeds are, the air, is a time was double the size. Usually the other way around. The stalk is very long, you have a little section of seeds. Here is the other way around. The seeds that it was twice as long as big as the actual stalk itself. So that in itself, another miracle happened. So we'll have a number of discussions from the rest of the page, the rest of the daf, between Rav Nachman and Rabbi Yitzchak. Rav Nachman asked Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Yitzchak just came from Eretz, he was a Talmud of Rabbi Yochanan, so I guess he wanted to know what Rabbi Yochanan had to say. So he says here that Elisha spoke to the woman that he just gave it back to life. Say, go out there and live your normal life because Hashem is bringing the hunger to an end. 7 years. What did they eat during those 7 years? This is how the 7 years went by. The first year of the famine, they all ate whatever they had left at home. The second year, they ate things, things that grew on its own, like wheat or whatever else was left in the field. The third year, they ate all their cattle. Taheda, the kosher cattle. Levias, they ran out of kosher cattle, and there was, they had to survive. They ate basa behemoth mea, non-kosher cattle. Chamisha, the 5th year, basa shkotzim v'ramosim. They ate insects. Shish, the 6th year, basa b'nei v'nesem. They had to eat human flesh. And Shvi, the 7th year, basa z'rasei, their own flesh, their own arms. The kaim hashnem, so the pasuk, ish b'sar z'royo yoichelum, that they would eat their own. This is the curse. Ish b'sar z'royo yoichelum. They would eat their own flesh. That's how bad it was. Rav Nachman, and Rashi is related, not everybody, but some. Rav Nachman, Rav Yitzchak, tell me, you might have seen, but it says a pasuk. V'lo ish b'kibach hakadosh. That as the pasuk says that there's nobody holy amongst you. I will not enter the city. But we're breaking the pasuk as if there's a comma, and we're saying here. This is how you do. It says Kikela noichi v'lo ish, comma. I'm Hashem, not a person. Then it says B'kirbecha kadosh v'lo ava be'ir. What does that mean? If you take it literally, because amongst you there's kadosh and b'ifra, I won't enter the city of Yerushalayim. What does that mean? Hashem said, as we'll see, there's a counterpart to the Yerushalayim here. There's a Yerushalayim above, a ruchazik Yerushalayim. I will not enter the Yerushalayim above ad she'avay l'Yerushalayim shel mata, until the Yerushalayim shel mata, I'm ready to come to Yerushalayim shel mata. So bekirbecha kodesh la'avay l'ir. Bekirbecha means amongst you. You're Yerushalayim. When your Yerushalayim is holy, that I can go in there, then I will go into the Yerushalayim shel Maila. Says, well, what are you talking about? Yerushalayim Maila, is Yerushalayim above? Yes, Gemara says, yes, in. The Chesiv says, Yerushalayim habenuya, the rebuild Yerushalayim, ki ir shechubra lo yachto, like a city that's joined together. That means there's another, that Yerushalayim has a twin city. The Yerushalayim l'mayla, shel Maila, Yerushalayim shel Mata. And so this, and it's built very similar in a ruchasdik way, in a spiritual way. Another pasuk, see, it says a pasuk. Excuse me, sorry. It says of achas yivaru v'yechoslu musar havolim eitzu. So basically, the pasuk means that giving musar is a waste of time because they're like a piece of wood; they don't listen to their word. So what? How would you touch this pasuk? Achas he that there is one thing, there's one aveda that destroys Yerushalayim more than anything else. And achasi, there's only one aveda. So we're teaching here the pasuk over achas, with one aveda yivoru, they will burn in Gehenim, b'choslu, all these fools, all these Rishoyim. And what is that? Musar havolim eitzu. The fact that it's all wood. What does that mean? Mai avodah zarah, referring to avodah zarah. Ksiv hoch, here it says musar havolim eitzu, that this is only compared to wood. Ksiv hosam, and it says in another pasuk, it says hevel hema mas tatuyim be'ez kivdosam yavedu. It's talking about behavior, the hevel hema. So it's empty and mas tatuyim, it's foolish and distorted. Which is following avodah zarah. It says in pasuk, Kishtayim rois also imi, that did two terrible things. Also ami, they did two terrible things. What are these two terrible things? Tartan hu dahave, that they did two terrible things. And what's in Gemara? Esni v'abo shvikulu. That they actually we're talking now about avodah zarah, that they did two avedas. We'll see in a minute what the two avedas are. And it says, so with only two avedas. What about Esiv Abosh Viklu? 24 avedas that they did. And the 24 avedas that they did, and in the Tanakh it mentions a whole list of avedas that they did. And Rashi brings an interesting shot. What do you mean by 24 avedas? They were over the 24 Sfarim of Tanakh. They violated everything. So why is the puzzle like Shtayim Rois also Ami? They did a lot more than Shtayim Rois. They did 24. On the Hacham said, Achasid is one aveda shehishkula k'shtayim. They did 24 different avedas, but there's one aveda shtayim. There's one aveda that's equal to two. Which aveda is equal to two? That's avodah zarah. And why is it equal to two? We'll see in the Minchasiv. It says, Kishtayim rois asa ami. They did two terrible things. Oisi azvu. They left me. They forsaken me. And Mekor Mayim Chaim, which is the source of living water, and instead Lachzer Lehem, they went and dug up ba'oides nishborim, broken cisterns. In other words, they went, they left me behind. They started to worship avodah zarah. So that, and what are the two sins? So the way Rashi learns is the next part of the Morah Ksibu, and it says over there in the pasuk that the Ki'ivru Iye Kitim, they went and then they crossed over the island of Kitim, Veru'u V'Kedar. And they also followed Kedar, Shilchu, V'Hizbayinu. They wanted to follow these two guys, Kitim and Kedar. So Rashi therefore learns what are the two avedas is because one they followed Kutim and they followed Kodrim. They were both idol worshippers, different idols. And the Abish is saying that those people, no matter what happened, they've never forsaken their idols. And you guys have forsaken me. Aheme Goy Elohim. Did the Goyim ever forsake their gods? The and their gods are not real gods. And yet, Vahami, my nation, they left me and they transferred me to some other god that can't do anything for them. So Rashi learns that the two avedas were they followed two different forms of avodah zarah. As the Gemara says, Tana Kusim, what do the Kusim do? Oivdim le'esh, they worship fire, and Kadairim oivdim le'mayim, they worship water. Everyone knows that fire cannot exist, water can extinguish it. You could talk from them logic and say tomorrow. Doesn't matter. They believe in their gods, and then we're not going to change it in any way. And yet, my nation is prepared to walk away from me to change to one of these gods. I can't do a thing for them. So that was so two Aveda were two separate gods. So before Shem asked many more gods. So why only these two? Why then counted two? Counted as who knows how many different Avedas are as there were that Eden worship. But maybe the two Avedas are, one is they forsaken me, that's bad enough, and the other Aveda was they took on another Aveda Zara. So it's not just that they've forsaken me, which is a bad thing. They've forsaken me, which is like against the first Dibra Nech Hashem Lekecha, believe in me, and they stopped. And then the next thing is the next Aveda Zara is a part is don't take upon yourself other gods, and they did that. And maybe that's what the two Avedas are. But anyway, Rashi says it's the two different nations that they followed. Says he want further. Tell me now that you explain all this in Sukkim, please explain to me the following. It says Shmuel aged. Me see Shmuel Kolahai did he age? Barnun Bezhava he died at the age he passed away at the age of 52 years old. How do I know that? We learned Binun Beishon 52 Zehu Misasa Shmuel Haramasi. That is the death of Shmuel Haramasi. So how can you say in Pasuk over here Vahi Kasha Zokin Shmuel? You never get old. Amale Hachi Amra Bechin actually said, this is what happened. This is Rabbi Yitzchak, who was a student of Bechin, said, Zikne Kaftalov, the Eibishter made him look old or age very quickly at a young age. Why? And there's a good reason for it. It says, Nichamti Shmuel said, I regret that I anointed Shaul as a king, didn't listen, and so on. He said, you made me equal to Moshe Aaron. It says Moshe Aaron b'chayinav, Shmuel b'kodesh Shmoi. That Moshe Aaron were Kohanim, and Shmuel was one who called him. He called Shmuel, which means that they both have very. They both carry the same weight. So my question is, Ma Moshe Aaron lebit lemasi dein b'chayim. Moshe Aaron, you never canceled your work while they were alive. Apani lo yizbat l'maisi yodim b'chayai. I don't want that. Whatever I did should happen b'chayai. So it was the Eibishter who said, I regretted allowing Shaul or anointing Shaul HaMelech as a king. So Shmuel now is pleading, don't kill Shaul, my handiwork, while I'm still alive. I'm not going to have a conundrum here. What should I do? Lame Shaul, should I let Shaul pass away? Shmuel won't allow me. Because Tzaddik Goizer, Baruch Makayim, but Tzaddik decrees Hashem has no choice, but he's bound by it. Lame Shmuel, let Shmuel die. Aduzut merane abasre. What can happen is that people are going to mock and say, Shmuel passed away at the age of 52, very young. And Gemara Merkotten will learn that 50 years old is Chorus, and 60 is Midei Shemayim. So if he passed away at 52, people are going to start saying, even though Shmuel was our leader, he must have done some terrible Averis, and that's why he passed away so young. So what do we do? Interesting, according to the Gemara, it's only the young people who would the cynics, the older people were more settled and they had, I guess, faith in Shmuel that he was a tzaddik. Let them both live. It's time for the Melech to become king. One king cannot overlap another one. One kingdom cannot overlap another one. I feel it even a hair breath. Akbit Olav Zik. You know what? I'll make Shmuel look young. So people behind the Chivit says, V'shol Yeshe Begiva Tachaz Eishel. Shol was sitting in the Giva underneath the tree. But Rama in a place called Rama. Giva or Rama? Where was it? Chimayin Giva to Rama. Two different parts of Eretz Yisrael. So Rama is by Ephraim, totally different place. So what do we do? El Leimlach Mi Goram L'Shol Sheyeshe Begiva. What caused Shaul to sit only 2.5 years and he reigned only for 2.5 years? It was a davening of Shmuel HaMasi that gave him till 2.5 years. No, he would have passed away even a year earlier. So the Gemara asks, so you're saying here that Shmuel had to pass away so David can go in charge, and that's what happens. One person has to pass away for another person In Amar Shmuel Chen Amar Levim, Maliksiv, Pasuk Chetzavtim Levim, Haraktim B'Lefi. Therefore, I dug amongst the Levim and I killed with the words of my mouth. The Maseim Le'Nem B'Lefi. Doesn't say because of their deeds they deserve to pass away. It's just because of what I said. Alma Michikav come out. I said that this person should now take over. Therefore, the other person has to pass away. So no, not because I didn't have anything else, but because what I said. So Shmuel became old, so people wouldn't say, "Oh, he passed away from Korah suddenly in the prime of his life." They saw him age, so they thought, "Oh, so obviously he was not well, and physically, and therefore he passed away." So the mockers won't have anything to say. So the Gemara continues conversations between Nachal and Yitzchak, famous Gemara. Amul Nachal and Yitzchak, Leiman Milsa, and Nachal and Yitzchak were in the middle of the meal. Sorry, I skipped over here. That I'm not going to have a Yosef said this. They were sitting in a meal. Why don't you say something? Say it about Torah. He said, "You're not supposed to speak in the meal. Maybe the food will end up in the windpipe rather than the esophagus, and that's dangerous. The Yovel Sakon will come to a danger. And in fact, that in itself was a Dvar Torah already. In fact, it's even more than Dvar Torah. We're saying halacha. And we learn out that even though you shouldn't talk to your in the middle of eating, but Allah, stop somebody you can. Basa this right when the meal is over. I'm like, Hachi, you want to tell? I'll tell you. Hachi Amar Rabbi Yechon. Rabbi Yechon said the following thing: Yaakov Avinu loimes. Yaakov Avinu did not pass away. Now I'm going to learn with you Gemara the way Rashi learns, and I'll tell you what Mashal says. Rashi takes the Gemara literally. Rashi loimes elachayhu la'olam. He's living forever. So the Gemara continues. So Nachman asked so for no reason, for naught, they went and eulogized him. The Chantu Chantai and they embalmed him. The Kovru Kivrai and they buried him. You said he's still alive. What do you want me to do? I'm dashing a pasuk. It says in pasuk, the and you. Al Tira of the Yaakov, don't fear my servant Yaakov. Hashem, Al Teiches Yisrael, don't do me trepidation. I will help you from a distance. Vezar Echon, your children, Me'edet Shama, bring back from the land where they were taken captive, and Yaakov will come back as well. Says the Gemara, Makish Hulazari, in the very same pasuk, it says Yaakov, it says also Zarecha. So we equate Yaakov to his children, to his descendants. Ma Zare B'chaim, we're talking about physically that are alive or they're going to be taken out of captivity. Avhu B'chaim, Yaakov also is alive. So what exactly is the Gemara answered? Rav Nachman asked a question. They bombed him and they buried him and all that. And so what do you ask? I'm telling you a pasuk. So what's he saying? I can't help it, I don't know. So Rashi says, Mikra Nidoida, says Rashi, that and he's still alive. Why did they bomb him? They didn't realize that he was alive. They thought that he was dead. and then Rashi says Afu b'chaim, but Yaakov is alive. So Rashi says Shevienu b'goyim. They'll bring Yaakov to the exile. They legal as bon of le'enov. So he should see in his own with his own eyes of flesh and blood that is the Eden of being taken out of exile. Just like we find in Mitzrayim. And that, and then he said the last line of Rashi, Udochantu Chantaya, what about the bombing? Nidma lehem shemes. They imagined or they thought that he passed away, but really, Abu Chai Hoyer. Amazing Gemara. So Rashi takes the Gemara like Pshutai. The Mashal says that maybe the Gemara is talking about in Ruchni is still alive. And the Mephoshim actually have a hard time with Mashal. So what's so special about Yaakov? Every tzaddik, the neshama lives on Beruchnis. You go to Gan Eden, the neshama lives on. What's the Gemara telling us about Yaakov? And he bring a whole pasuk. What for? So Rashi says Yaakov is an exception. Yaakov loy mess. Interesting. And then Tosfos adds, nowhere does it say by Yaakov, by Yamas Yaakov. It says by Yigla. It doesn't say by Yamas. Anyway, Gemara continues talking to Nachman Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak is another Dvar Torah. He said, whoever mentions Rachav's name from Tanakh Yeshua, she was the house that Pinchas and Kalev were in hiding, and then she was taken out. Eventually, she married Yeshua. Whoever says the name of Rachav is such a pretty, attractive woman, Miyad Nikri, so they have lewd thoughts and things happen. Amalei Rav Nachman, I say the name means nothing to me. Amalei, of course not. Kikami, what I'm talking about is Beyoda, those who had relations with her, or Uva Makira, or they just knew her, they saw her. Rashi says that B'yodim Akira are the same. But Teresa says Yodim means that it had relations, or Makira means just saw. And if you think about it, things happen. Anyway, this is the most famous Gemara now. Having miftarim hadadin, I'm not just parted ways. Amalei Nachman said to Yitzchak, Livarcha Mar, give me a bracha. Amalei, he said to Rav Nachman, and now Rav Nachman was married to the daughter of the Reish Gelusa. Rav Nachman was the head of the Bezin, was a big Amoda, and he was a very wealthy man. And he had a wonderful family. So he said, let me give you an example. The guy was traveling in the wilderness, he was hungry, tired, but some and thirsty. He found a tree, the fruits were all fixed up, it's a beautiful shade. There's a creek of water flowing underneath. This is an oasis, it was beautiful. He ate from the fruits, Shasim and Mema drank from its waters, he sat in its shade, when he was about to leave and he was refreshed. He said, Elon, tree. How should I bench you? If I'll tell you, you have sweet potatoes, how do you put a it's already there. She hates silchana, that your shade should be nice. It's already that. It's redundant, you already have it. Should have a creek, water. There's the fruits mean represent his what do you call it? The fruit mean represent his family. The shade represents his influence, and the amasa mayim is Torah, because in Torah in mayim el Torah. You have everything. So what should I bench with? I'll tell you what I'll bench with. El Yiratzin, my wish is that all your offshoots, all your fruits that come from you, all the trees that are born from you, all your children, should be just like you. That's what he said to the tree. So after you too. You already have Torah. For your which is the shade. And covered and so on and so forth. And wealth, you have kids, my wish is that your children should be just like you. And that's beautiful, beautiful bracha. Okay, we'll stop here and continue tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem.
It's interesting.